everybody. Welcome to Miss Adaria's Storytime. How are you doing? I hope you're doing fine. I'm doing pretty good today. So we're going to read some stories about forests. This one is called the Eastern Forest. It's an ecosystem of North America. Did you know that there was a rainforest in North America? You don't have to go all the way to Brazil or Malaysia or one of those other wonderful countries by the equator. You can go up to Oregon, and there is a beautiful temperate rainforest, and it's really beautiful. And also we're going to be reading a couple of pages out of the North American Rainforest Scrapbook, which is specifically about that. But first, I'm going to read to you a little bit about the Eastern forests, because we live in the East, and we have forests. So I know that you want to learn about them. So let's read a little bit about it. Exploring the Eastern Forest. Did you know that the Eastern Forest spreads from Canada to Florida and from the Mississippi River to the Atlantic Ocean? Take a moment to imagine yourself in this forest. Are you framing a picture of the trees? Can you see them? The trees are important in a forest, but they are only part of the picture. An explorer could spend a lifetime learning about the Eastern Forest. There are so many wonderful things to discover. Imagine yourself walking among the trees. Stop to use your senses. What can you see? What can you touch? What can you hear? What can you smell? Far overhead is the canopy, a green ceiling made out of the top branches and leaves of the tallest trees. Below the canopy are the leaves and the branches of the shorter trees. This is called the understory. Closer to the ground, near enough so that you could touch their leaves, are woody, bushy plants called shrubs. On the forest floor, there are wildflowers, ferns, mosses, and the seedlings of trees. If you kneel and dig with your fingers in the fallen leaves, you can sniff the rich scent of damp earth, which is the smell of millions of fungi and microbes. Animals are everywhere. You can hear singing and the buzzing of birds and insects that live in the canopy overhead. You can see squirrels running up and down the tree trunks and all kinds of birds. Did you ever just walk through a park or a forest and just listen to the birds? I think that it is amazing. Okay, so here we go. You can come in and get this book and take it home and read it all. There's a lot of information and great pictures in it. But for story time, we're just going to read part of one chapter. And this is called Trees Wading Knee Deep. Wading means when you go in a little bit of water, and it's maybe only up to your knees or your ankles. And knee deep would be to your knees, so there you go. On the way to the ocean, the waters of the Eastern Forest rivers and streams support many living communities. Riverine forests grow along the banks of a river and spread out to the floodplains. Do you see that cute little turtle there? Because the river's edges are always changing, riverine forests face special challenges, like me when I try to say words. The Connecticut River is New England's longest river. It winds through cities, towns, and farms, and forests along its way to the ocean at the Long Island Sound. The Connecticut River has been used to power factories, enrich the soils of farmlands, provide food, transport goods and people, and until recently, carry the waste product of humans and their industries. The riverine forests of lower Connecticut from Hartford to the ocean is a fascinating place to explore. So imagine you, if you will, you're in a kayak or canoe and you're paddling and you paddle by a half-sunken log and all of a sudden something comes off of the log and plops into the water. That's probably a turtle. They've been resting in the sun. And the river is filled with living things. Some, unfortunately, destined to become lunch for somebody else. Brilliantly colored wood ducks feast on tree nuts. Frogs and fish snap at insects. Bank swallows emerge from their holes in the steep banks cut by the river and make wild zigzags as they too catch insects. Mink and otters slip in and out of the water hunting for fish and frogs. Hey, look up, you might see an osprey. The bird stares at the river from its large nest of sticks high in the branches of a dead tree. If you're lucky, the bird will show you its remarkable fishing skill by making a high-speed dive to grasp a fish in its powerful talons. You see that? Ospreys migrate to the lower Connecticut River in spring. They depend on the forest for nesting sites and for the fish that feed them and their young. We have a lot of osprey around here, so look up. They're also called a fish eagle. And I think that they're just amazing. Okay, here we go. We're going to read a little bit about the different species that are inside of the forest. The eastern forest covers the Appalachian mountains like a rumpled green patchwork quilt. Caves are sheltered upland valleys, and there are many of them in the southern Appalachians. The Appalachian? You say Appalachian, I say Appalachian. Cove forest is packed with an unusually high number of species. It has greater biodiversity, or the number of species, than most other forests within the eastern forest. The Cove forests of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, which spreads across the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, are famous for their biodiversity. They are also famous for their beauty. Do you know what kind of creature this is? It's a salamander, right? You guessed it. Look how cool that is. It's beautiful. The biodiversity of this Cove forest is easy to see on a spring or summer morning. Look around. You'll see that the forest can't be named for its most common species, like the oak hickory. But if you were to describe the Cove forest that way, you would have to call it the basswood. Just a second. You would have to call it the basswood, silverbell, tulip tree, buckeye, sugar maple, yellow birch, magnolia, hickory, white ash, hemlock forest. In addition to the trees, varied flowers and ferns cover the forest floor. The air is full of bird songs and the tapping of woodpeckers. A muddy spot might show the tracks of deer, bobcat, raccoon, or bear. Hey, look, it's a bunch of trilliums. Remember that book we read called A Trillion Trees? This is what she really wanted to order, were these trillion plants, which is covering this forest floor. So there are so many more things to learn about the eastern forest. So please come in and get this book. It's in the nonfiction section, because you know you want to learn more about that. So we're going to move along to a temperate rainforest right here in the United States. You're not even going to believe it. So here, let me just show you this map. You see that map there? Do you see the dark green? There's some dark green down here in South America. There's some dark green up here in North America. So, you know, all along the west coast. There's some dark green up in Scotland. There's some dark green in Finland, over here in Japan, and there's some down here in the islands off of Australia, and there's also some in Australia as well. And I don't know, that's not, okay, that's just a dark spot. So this is where the zone of the temperate rainforests are in the world. They're kind of at the bottom and the top. So the other rainforests, like the Amazon rainforest and other rainforests would be near the equator, so that would be right in the middle. But we're talking about the temperate rainforest. And apparently it goes from Oregon up to Washington, up to Canada, and even up to Alaska. If you can see this other little map here, this is the Pacific Ocean. This is Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, which is Canada, and then swings over to Alaska. So I thought maybe it was just in Oregon, but I was wrong. It's all along the west coast like that. That's wonderful. Okay. I'm too excited on the plane to read any more about the North American rainforest. So I look at the changing views below me and think and sketch my way across the continent. They sketch the Atlantic coast of where they live in North Carolina, the glowing colors of the Appalachians, the quilt patches of the Midwest farmland, the brown and barren hills, the Rocky Mountains and a winding river, and finally the rainforest clouds and the Pacific coast. I don't know who this person is, but, I'm sorry. This book was written by Virginia Wright Frierson. And if it's Virginia talking about herself, she's saying, I'm going to Washington's Olympic Peninsula to create a scrapbook about the temperate rainforest. I've been planning this trip for months, but nothing has quite prepared me for the moment when I finally step into this ancient forest. Look at this place. Whoa! My eyes must adjust to the bright shafts of sunlight that shoot through the treetops. In the shadows, I begin to see every shade of green imaginable. The roots of a giant fallen trunk tower over my head as I set off down a trail to begin my exploration. Wow, look at this. That's when you look up at the top of the trees. I walk deeper into the forest, listening to the gentle drip of water from the leaf tips, breathing the clean, fresh air that smells like Christmas trees. Then I look up until I'm dizzy. Everything is quiet. I look around me, half expecting to see elves in this ancient fairyland or dinosaurs from prehistoric times. Wow, this is great. Now again, I'm not going to read this whole book because there's so much information in it, and I want you to take time and come in and get this book. This book is also in the nonfiction section, but I am going to pick out one more part of it and read it to you, and I think you are going to love it. So let's start on this page. A Douglas squirrel, or chicory as they're called, chatters loudly to let me know that I'm in its territory. It soon goes back to eating its cone and scattering a few seeds as I quietly take photos and do a quick sketch. So they eat the pine seeds out of the pine cones, or whatever tree it is, the cones of that tree. And they drop a couple, and that's how new trees start. I follow the trail that's one way how new trees start. I follow the trail for a long time, and I see nurse logs in all their different stages. So it's basically after a big mama tree falls down, it becomes a nurse for little saplings, or seedlings rather. So hundreds of seedlings growing on this nurse log race to send roots down to the soil. Only a few might survive till adulthood. The trees grow in a straight line along the nurse log. This is called a colonnade. I saw a photo of a totem pole from a deserted Indian village. It had fallen over and become a nurse log as new life arose on the carved red cedar. The nurse log beneath this colonnade has completely rotted away, leaving the giant trees standing up on stilts. I wonder what it would be like to curl up in one of these secret rooms to write and paint and listen and observe. Would I turn green in a few weeks, covered with moss like the trees? All right, I'm going to read you one more little thing, and then we're going to wrap it up here. For thousands of years, American Indians have lived in harmony with the sea and forest on the Olympic Peninsula. From the giant red cedars, they made canoes, longhouses, nets, baskets, clothing, tools, and totems. When European explorers came, they brought metal tools that the native tribes soon began to use for hunting and carving. The explorers also brought diseases that eventually wiped out as much as 90% of the native populations. Today, the descendants live on coastal reservations. So there are still some Native Americans on the West Coast doing their thing. So please come in and enjoy this wonderful book where you can learn that a Douglas fir can live 600 to 800 years, a Sitka spruce 500 to 1,000 years, a western red cedar 1,000 years, a hemlock 500 to 700 years, and a big leaf maple 275 years. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that beautiful forest. So if you ever get a chance to go to Oregon, please don't forget to go to the temperate rainforests or Washington or up into Alaska, because I'm sure you would love it, and in British Columbia and Canada too. Thank you so much for tuning into Storytime today. We really appreciate you and hope you learn a lot, and stay tuned for our fun craft, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Crafting with Miss Adaria. And I really hope you enjoyed those wonderful stories we read about the eastern forest and that temperate rainforest out on the West Coast. And I really hope that you and your family and your friends get a chance to see that one day, because it is so beautiful, and you're really it's like you're walking on another planet. And you don't have to go all the way down to a subtropical country to enjoy a rainforest. You can enjoy a rainforest right here in North America and up into Canada. They're called temperate rainforests because they're not equatorial hot. They're not super hot. They're temperate. So what are we going to do today? We're going to make our very own stand of trees. It's going to be like a forest almost. And so what you need basically is construction paper and a glue stick and maybe a Sharpie to make your boughs, like a tree. A tree starts and then it kind of breaks off into different branches. They're also called boughs. A bough. It's not the same thing as when you bow down. It's B-O-U-G-H as opposed to B-O-W. Boop, boop. Okay, so I am going to start by, we have an extra large piece of construction paper. If you do not have an extra large piece of construction paper and you have two about this size, you can always tape it along the back and make an extra large piece of construction paper. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my construction paper kind of like an accordion. So here's the first fold. I'm just going to use this handy yogurt cup to help me with the folds. And then I'm going to fold it like this. Same shape. And then I'm going to fold it like this. So that when you open it up, it's going to look like that. You see that? And then it can stand on its own. Isn't that cool? You can pull it out a little bit. And now what we're going to do is this is going to be the base, and then each of these 4 sections are going to be tree trunks. So what I'm going to do is, with my little hand here, I'm going to draw just in, say, about yay far. And then tree trunks mostly trees start bigger at the bottom and get skinnier up top, right? So I'm going to go up a little bit, maybe about halfway. Same thing with this side. Go up, and I'm going to get it skinnier, and we're just going to leave it like that. Now the next one, pretty much the same thing. So you want to start, you want to go up. You can make this one skinnier or fatter, whichever you like. I'm going to make this one a little bit skinnier than the last one. Same thing with this. Start here, go up. Maybe this is a shorter tree. You could stop right about there. And the last one, maybe this is a really big fat tree, older than the other ones. So you could stop about there. And now what you're going to do is you're going to want to be cutting. So we're going to be cutting and cutting and cutting. So maybe we'll use the speed up music for the cutting because it's not that exciting. So if you don't hear me babbling for the next minute or so, it's because I'm busy cutting. See you on the other side of cutting. Welcome back to normal speed. And I just want to see what this looks like when I stand it up. No, that one's supposed to be like that. Okay. So see, look, it's standing up. And it looks a little bit like a forest, right? Here's the forest floor. And here's your trees coming up from the floor. And now what you're going to do is you're going to glue your tree tops to the back of these with where the pencil marks might be. Now, I know I started this one a little skinnier, but I made it a little fatter because I feel like if it was too skinny, it wasn't going to support the weight of the tree top. So we can do whatever kind of tree top you want. It could be round or sort of like this, you know, so it looks a little more natural. Something like that, right? See that? And then I come in with another color. And maybe you might even want to do a pine tree or a tree whose treetop kind of looks like that. So there's number 2. Then we've got a different color here. And I'm going to do it in the corner so we could save the rest of this paper. And for this one, I think I'm just going to do another bumpy one like that, even though it's going to be a little hard to cut out. It's going to be more fun to look at. And then our final tree, maybe we'll use this scrap here. I'm going to do a pine tree. So kind of like a Christmas tree, right? You just kind of do that. And that'll look nice. And let's start by cutting out. And again, we're going to speed this up so you don't have to watch me cut out all these trees. And I'll see you on the other side. back. And look at all these wonderful tree shapes that we did. And you're going to glue them on the side where the pencil marks were that I used to cut these out. I think maybe I want to put the yellow one in there and put the green one over there. What do you think? I think that's a great idea. Let's see. I think maybe, do we need to come down a little bit? What's that going to look like? You want to put them down far enough so that they actually stay on the trunks. Because otherwise, if you put them up a little bit too high, the weight might make the whole thing flop over, or these might just flop over on their own. So you want to put them down far enough on the trunks so that the trunks can actually hold them. Do you think we should put, let me see that. No, okay, this is good. All right. I was thinking about the width of the tree trunk to the amount of leaves that you have on the upper part of the tree, and I think that looks good. All right, so I'm just going to bring this down just a little bit, and we're going to put some glue stick on it, just kind of imitate the shape of the trunk. And also you want to put some on the back of the trunk here. And then just do that. And then we'll work on the fronts a little bit because you want to make them look like trees. So you're going to have some lines up and down to represent the bark, bark, and all that good stuff. Bark, bark, bark. Speaking of bark, there's a dog barking outside, and they've been barking for almost this whole craft, and you probably can't hear it, but Mr. Glenn and I can hear it, and it's really funny. Bark, bark, bark. What is that poor dog barking about? Okay, right. Okay. So this one's going to be a little skinnier because that's a little skinnier. So we'll put some glue on both sides. And then match it up. And then press it down. Press all these down. And then our last one, I'm thinking that this might be a mighty maple tree or an oak or even a tulip tree. What do you think? Now these trees might not normally grow together in a forest, but this is our imaginary forest. So you could do whatever you want. And I'm really hoping this stands up when I turn it over. So this is the moment of truth, kids. Does this craft actually work? Okay. Okay, well, you might have to get something strong. Or, hey, you know what? I have a good idea. You can just lay it down flat. That's right, because otherwise, Miss Adaria, don't try this at home, kids. When she picked it up, all poor little trees fell over. Oh, sad trees. But I think it looks good like this, so we could do that. So I'm just going to draw on these a little bit just to give you some bark. And also some branches. There you go. Some bark. Some bark over here. And some branches. And look, you made your very own forest. I'm so proud of you. Here, why don't we make a walking path so that when we take a walk in the forest, we can stay on the path. And if I had a blue magic marker, maybe we can make a little river. And here, let's make some people on the path. Yay! We're so happy to be out in the forest. Yay! Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your friends. I like that. Little people. All right, kids, thank you so much. I'm sorry our forest didn't stand up, but you know that forests normally do stand up. But I think this is kind of pretty. And you might do something to reinforce it so that the treetops don't make the bark flop. And I don't know, but I think it's pretty. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go take a walk in the forest and look at some trees and even hug them, because everybody needs hugs. Thanks for tuning in. Peace till next time. Take care. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.